and we are starting our first roundtable about workplace inclusion with Portugal and France perspective, and with 4 speakers who are going to give different type of vision on the subject, from measuring inclusion to apply inclusion. Then first, Kelly, you are for the French Association of Diversity Manager, and you are going to give us the results of the observatory, Inclusion Observatory, from 2025. And because in France we use a scientific method to measure inclusion, and you are going to present that. And also you have a very broad vision and definition of inclusion that you are going to share with us. Then over to you, Kelly. You want to be there for... What is better for you?
Thank you, Marina. Just before heading into the topic, I wanted to say a few words about AFMD, which is the acronym that stands for the French Association of Diversity Managers. It was founded in 2007, and we are a network, a community, and a think tank that unites French-based DEI professionals from more than 200 member organizations, whether it be businesses, consulting firms, law firms as well, and Formation Méditerranée is one of our members, so thank you so much for the invitation. We're really happy to be here. And what's specific about AFMD is that we heavily rely on scientific research and the daily practices of our members to address issues related to the prevention of workplace discrimination and the promotion of equity and inclusion. So we're really happy to be here. It's always interesting seeing other countries' perspectives. We've been trying to collaborate with European partners a little bit more. We were in Luxembourg a few months ago with IMS, which is an actor that also works on similar topics. We also worked on an Erasmus project called Rework on remote working, and we also work with French-speaking countries such as Canada in order to really try to spread the inclusion culture. So now onto the topic at hand, the Inclusion Observatory. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of context first. It's the first tool to measure inclusion in organizations through a transversal approach. As I said before, what's specific about AFMD is that we work with our members as well as researchers, and so we really wanted to define what inclusion was in France, because it's a concept that was developed in the US back in the 90s. And so there were 14 of our members, as well as 2 consulting firms, Alternego and Just Different, which are our partners in this project. And we tried to work on the definition of inclusion for a few months. And so we ended up writing the book that you see on the left-hand side, Inclusion in Organizations, and it's also available on a website if you want to have a look at it. That was in 2016, and then we wanted to see whether or not we could develop a way to measure that very concept. And so this is why we wrote another book that's shorter this time, on the right-hand side, specifically on the measure of inclusion. And so once again, we wondered whether or not we could take it to a broader scale, and this is why we ended up launching the very first edition of the Inclusion Observatory last year, which was quite successful. We had 10 organizations participating in it. You can see them on the right-hand side, mostly big companies such as Siemens, Schneider Electric, also Michelin, but also organizations from the public sector, such as La Ville de Paris, so the city of Paris, and smaller ones as well, such as Innovi, which is a biology lab. And the idea is really to have a state of play of inclusion through varying organizations from varying sizes and varying fields And we collected more than 23,000 answers, and we also organized an event in order to talk about the main results. All in all, to say that it was a lot of tests and trials, and that what's specific about the Inclusion Observatory is that it's really a scientific method, very AFMD-like, and that it's a group work, basically. So inclusion, what are we talking about exactly? I'll just read the definition that you can see here. Inclusion can be defined as the mobilization of all diversities through a transversal approach in the service of individual well-being and collective performance. Diversities we refer to as the protected characteristics. There are 26 in France, and my colleague Andrea will be talking a little bit more about them later on. That's gender, sexual orientation, age, for instance, and the idea is really to address all of those in an organization, because in France we really have a siloed approach to diversity, and the idea here is really to encompass all of the diversities in an organization in a more horizontal way. And so we have an approach to inclusion that is more that has more to do with well-being at work, the feeling of being yourself at work. And so there are three fundamentals: the mobilization of all diversities, as I said, both socio-demographic and cognitive, and a transversal approach to subjects rather than concentrating purely on certain protected characteristics. What we mean by that is that we identified a certain amount of topics that organizations need to work on in order to really foster an inclusive culture within their organization. And those are cooperation, which does not come by so easily, because society tends to put us against each other more, and it's more competitive rather than cooperative between us. And so in an organization, it's important to really acknowledge all the diversities, as well as making sure that they still relate to the values of the organization in order to work towards collective performance. We also identified the idea of belonging. That's a concept that was that's been talked about in the US for like the past 40 years. And it's important that organizations answer to social needs, the importance of being recognized as unique, and also the importance of belonging to an organization, whether it be in terms of values or in terms of goals. Equity as well, which is the very base of any DEI policy, without which, I mean, you can't do anything. And so in our approach, we don't question protected characteristics at all. And for us, it's important to have this really horizontal approach and actions for all type of approach. And the other fundamental is the commitment of all actors, whether it be leaders, HR, managers, employees, etc. Because if you have your leaders talking about how diversity is important to them, but then on the very field, managers don't step up in terms of, in case of microaggressions, then your inclusion culture will definitely just fall. Or like employees will not feel as though you really are inclusive. And it's the same in terms of communication. It's important that you use images as well as words in order to reflect all the diversities present in an organization. And so there are three purposes. Members of an organization are and feel that they're treated respectfully and equitably. That's the non-discrimination principle. That's the very base of any DEI policy again. Are valued as unique individuals, yet feel that they belong to their organization, the sense of belonging in the two social needs that I was talking about earlier, and are empowered to express their ideas and cooperate with each other with serenity. If someone is not stereotyped, does not fall victim to any discrimination, they will feel like they can be themselves at work and work efficiently with their peers and for their company. And so if you had to remember two things about the Inclusion Observatory is that it's the only tool that measures inclusion through a transversal approach. Once again, we insist on that a lot, but we feel anytime we present the Inclusion Observatory, there are always questions about how it measures diversity when it's precisely not its purpose. Not that it's any better or that it's the way you should do it. It's very rather complementary to other surveys that will measure the inclusion of LGBTQIA plus people, sexism, and so on and so forth. But it's very vertical, whereas here, once again, we take on a more horizontal approach to all people within an organization. And the way we do it is by measuring both the actions that are implemented by the DEI, by the Chief Diversity Officer in an organization, and we have a score out of 100. And we also question the employees within an organization on their feeling of inclusion. And so the gap between the two scores gives us basically an idea as to the maturity of inclusion within an organization. And then it enables the chief diversity officers within an organization to like adjust their actions, see where they might lack, see what they do well, because sometimes inclusion is just common sense. For instance, Innovilla Sud, which I was talking about earlier, which participated last year, had not implemented any sort of policy really, but they had really good results, meaning that sometimes inclusion is just, once again, common sense. On to the key takeaways, I wanted to highlight a few ones. So the maturity of organizations in terms of inclusion in France obviously is really different. So 48 is the difference between the score of the organization that implemented the fewest actions and the one that implemented the most. And there are two areas to focus on: equity and management. They really are the neglected areas of inclusion initiatives and policies, when precisely equity is the base of any DEI policy, and management is really, it's a really interesting topic because they really are the ones on the field every day with their teams, having to make sure that all of the inclusion and diversity values that their company upholds really is implemented in practice, which is not always the case. It's difficult sometimes to step up in case of microaggressions or to make sure that your team works well. And so that companies really need to make an effort in these specific fields. And there's also a significant gap between how managers and non-managers feel about inclusion, with non-managers feeling less included, which is not really surprising as such. And another topic as well is that 1 in 2 people who identify with one of those 4 protected characteristics: health status, disability, sexual orientation, and physical appearance, feel that they cannot be themselves at work. One of the questions in our impacts questionnaire is, in my organization, I feel like I can be myself. For people not belonging to any, not identifying to any protected characteristics, that's 73%. And for people declaring that they feel as though they belong to diversity because of their physical appearance, that's minus 18 points. For LGBTQIA plus people, that's minus 19 points. Disabled people, minus 22. And because of their state of health, that's minus 23. So when your company realizes that, they can afterwards, implement vertical actions. That's why we say that the Inclusion Observatory really comes in a complementary way, really. And my final slide is about the key takeaways by socio-demographic categories. We have realized through the edition last year that women systematically have negative, more negative opinions on inclusion in all of the areas that we discussed earlier, whether it be cooperation, equity, management, leadership, and specifically equity, which is not really surprising as such, and which means that companies still need to make an effort towards that. The other socio-demographic category that the Inclusion Observatory studies is age. And yeah, just to go back on what I was saying earlier, so none of the questions in our questionnaire specifically asks, what do you feel about the inclusion of LGBTQIA plus people at work, for instance? But we do analyze the impacts of the actions implemented through the lens of 4 socio-demographic criteria that respondents can declare themselves. And so they're free not to declare anything. But among those are gender, age, and declared diversity, like sexual orientation, health status, and so on and so forth. That's why we have that view as well. And for age, what we discovered was that the age range between 36 and 50 years old, they have very positive views on cooperation, whereas it's not the case for younger people and older and seniors, which is interesting because it's precisely within teams that group dynamics come into play. And so there's an effort as to how you need to work towards more cooperation, because it's the first time really that so many generations are working together. And if seniors, for instance, feel as though more actions are implemented and aimed at the inclusion of younger people, they may feel more isolated or discriminated against, which is not the idea. And so cooperation really was the important aspect in terms of age, and also management. They really had younger and older people really had more negative views on management than the others. And in terms of declared diversity, respondents who declared identifying to at least one protected characteristic had negative views systematically, once again, on all areas of inclusion, and specifically on governance and leadership, meaning that they can't relate to the people in power, basically. And so that may end up in them maybe not ending up in positions of power because they feel as though they wouldn't be able to get there. And so it's important for companies to work on that specifically, and also on equity. So that might mean that they feel more discriminated against than other people. So that was it for me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly. We see with you how we can, in a way, measure inclusion. We are going to see how inclusion is built. And then we are going with Rogerio to see the strategy, Portuguese strategy, and focus on the link between training and local community. You want to come here?
Okay, I think everyone can hear me perfectly. I will. Okay, but I like more to talk close to the people. But okay, I will try to make it. Okay, yes. I will be very quick because we have a long journey, and we want to talk with everyone and to hear your apports, your commitments, and your advices for this project, these 3 important pillars. And our colleague from French agency share with us very and diverse and important numbers and indicators about this inclusion pillar. I want to share with you only 3 diagrams. 3 important diagrams who reflect the Portuguese approach to inclusion. And we identify this experience like inclusion to impact. Okay? We understand the inclusion like the digital, like the ambiental sustainability, like pillars to create impact on people, on companies, on the strategies, on the territory, on the process. We want to create impact. Impact to change, impact to give a new apport, to give new and best conditions to everyone. So, this diagram, I think, is very, very expressive to understand what in Portugal we can make, and also in the moment we made for the policy of inclusion. Social inclusion, if is social inclusion, we have equality of opportunities, qualification and employability, social innovation, and it is I want a point. Okay, don't understand, that doesn't matter. This middle stage of social innovation is very, very important, like the policy of social inclusion, equality of opportunity, qualification and employability, and starts social innovation. For us, social innovation in Portugal is a middle center point. After this, impact of entrepreneurship, social innovation, impact innovation for have sustainable territory development. Portugal has moved beyond viewing inclusion solely as a social protection. It's an old perspective, an old view. Now we see as a tool for empowerment, economic participation, and the creation of social value. This diagram reflects this approach, this perspective. But we want to center now on the model of inclusion using entrepreneurship. In Santarém, we are very, very commitment, very, very close to a strategy of entrepreneurship and innovation. We center in person, social needs, training, employability, and after me, Valor T is our Portuguese official partner for inclusive employability, work with us in every inclusion perspective approach, job fair, innovation fair, entrepreneurship fair, challenge of ideas. We want the commitment for inclusion, and Valor T is our partner, is a Portuguese official partner for higher institutions of education partner. At this time, every public ACE institutions are signing a public contract with Valor T, and our higher education Secretary of State. We are all commitment with this protocol. After this, one more time, social innovation, impact, and sustainable inclusion. In Portugal, inclusion is increasingly understood not only as access to social support, but as the empowerment of individuals to become active contributors to economic, social, and territorial. I think is missing one word. In Portugal, inclusion is increasingly understood not only as access to social support, but as the empowerment of individuals to become active contributions to economic, social, and territory development. So, one more time, we center all the process on the social innovation, to create impact, to create sustainable inclusion. Our model of inclusion center on the entrepreneurship and innovation process with training, centered in person, and centered in employability. Retain this word, training. In these 2 years, we made mentoring, capacitate, and training our best active resources, the persons, the students, the apprenticeship, for making the real impact policy of inclusion, change the behaviors in the companies to create impact where? On the territory. For the end, I want to share these final diagrams. Policies, skills development, one more time, employability, one more time, social innovation, impact, real inclusion policy. Santarém Polytechnic University and TAGIF project are concrete examples of how Portuguese higher education institutions are transforming inclusion policies into real opportunities for qualification, entrepreneurship, and territory development. This creates a very, very strong bridge between national policies and practices in the real ground, the territory, starting with inclusion to create impact. Portuguese experience show this, and the TAGIF project show this. We want to create impact on the companies, on the territory. Change behaviors, change methodologies, creating more and best strategies to include everyone. Now, Valorte, the floor is yours to share with us what in the real world we do it. Okay? Thank you all.
So first of all, thank you so much, Rogério, for the opportunity to be here. For us is super important. And thank you too for all the shares or all the thoughts that was very interesting. So my name is Beatriz and I'm here with my colleague Katia. And we are both represent Valorte, that is a Portuguese initiative that helps persons with disabilities to find job, but also to help employers to create more inclusive workplaces. Today we want to talk about our experience, about good practices, but also the connection between Valorte and Portugal new strategy for persons with disabilities 2026-2030 that was recently approved by our government. Basically, this new strategy gives us a new mindset. In the past, employment was about a job issue, and now it's also we understand that is also a fundamental right, and it is very important to promote autonomy, dignity, and the participation of everyone in the society. So it's super important. We think that this new strategy brings us a clear direction, a direction in the right way, because we have some principles, some policies that we need to guarantee to promote equal opportunities, the full participation. So it's truly, truly important. In our experience, we understand that the focus, it's important to focus that is necessary. We have the need to focus on the person. We need to develop the person to be more prepared for the labor market, but also we need to prepare the teams, the company, because we need to create the right conditions to everyone basically put in the practice their full potential, to develop their full potential, and at the same time thrive. It's important. We have the right to that. So it's important to help our employers, our companies, because they are key partners. They create opportunities, they remove barriers. So it's important to help them. With this fact, we need to basically to create awareness and promote trainings, because sometimes, and to be honest with you, companies, they want to integrate, but they don't know how. And it's very, very simple. And in Valorte, we show that. We are with companies, we are the people of the companies to help them in their journey. For example, me and Katya, we do trainings with the teams, and for example, we're challenging stereotypes, and this is so, so important to understand that everyone has a talent, everyone has something they do good, and everyone has something that they need to improve, but this is about us. This is not about persons with disabilities. So we need to try to create this type of mindset for create more inclusive workplaces. We do trainings, but we also in Valorte help employers to create a more inclusive recruitment process, to help them too in onboarding process. Basically, we try to understand the needs of the company and create a personalized plan to help them in their journey of the improving their inclusive culture. Sorry, because I forgot to show our slides, and basically is a summary that I was saying. But at the same time, in Valorte, our final goal is not only promote employment. We want sustainable employment and also to create conditions to have long-term career development, because everyone has the right to have a career and to develop and being the best person, professional that can be. Just a last message, inclusion is never finished. Progress cannot be taken for granted. When we stop investing in awareness and training, maybe we have the risk to lose everything that we have been achieved. Okay, so inclusion requires continuous learning, continuous improvement, long-term commitment. And basically this is the idea, the heart of the new strategy, but also the work that we have at Valorte. I think Spain, France, Portugal have different systems, but we have the same challenge, that is create more inclusive workplaces. And the biggest challenge is not to start inclusion, but yes, make sure that inclusion continues. Thank you so much.
Then to finish, we are going to see the point of view of the apprentices. Anna is going to present, as Mohamed said, the results of the observation grid concerning inclusion, then the observation grid scores, and also the description that the apprentices, Spanish one and French one, did in the local companies and also all over the world.
Thank you, Marina. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your words. It's very interesting. Today, I'm here to present you the. It's not. C'est après. C'est à l'envers, c'est ça. De l'autre côté. C'est en bas alors peut-être. Oui, c'est de l'autre sens. Ah, c'est de ce côté. Donc c'est super. Ouais. So yes, I'm going to present you the great work of Mohamed. Mohamed created an AI tool who makes it possible to classify impetuses, responses, and Mohamed assigned a score to assess the quality of the content. And for my part, I tried to gather best practices from different continents and inclusive practices. So we can see in France, we can see the topics. In France, we have 38 topics about respect and diversity. In Spain, we have 8 topics. Portugal, we have 9 topics. In China, we talked about infrastructure accessibility. We can see overall the different trends by industry sector, by country, and company size, but we will see after. So I'm going to speak about the good practices. So in United States, I saw that the good practices is about physical and digital accessibility. I thought that they used to make inclusive workplace design and accessible digital tools, ensuring full participation for all employees. So it means that wheelchair accessibility for with ramp or screen readers and yes, digital documents with, for example, large fonts. Etc. So I think interesting to show that this kind of good practice. In India, we are more about inclusive teams and inclusive leadership training to enhance collaboration. We talk about mixed teams and inclusive leadership training to, yes, and collaboration, sorry, I repeat. So it means bringing together diverse teams and training leaders to be more inclusive. So it's about teaching leaders how to give equal voices to all teams. It's about building teams with diverse profiles. And also in India, I saw in multiple organizations there were lots of workshops and on unconscious bias, it means automatic judgments, to strengthen empathy and cooperation across diverse teams, because all we know empathy is very important, and we have to learn empathy to work better with employees. So what means workshop is about maybe real life scenarios showing how bias or automatic judgments can affect hiring, or interaction between employees. It's about role play exercise. So we spoke about workshop, but it's very important, and in India they do it. In China, I saw an interest and a relevant good practice. It's about workplace flexibility, flexible schedules and shift exchanges to support work-life balance and individual needs. What means this topic? It means that starting work at 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. depending on personal constraints. It's about swapping a shift with a colleague if there is a medical appointment or family event. It's about, for sure, working from home or leaving earlier on Friday. Well, it means to have a better balance between their personal and professional lives. In Spain, let's take a look in Europe. In Spain, I saw three good topics, three good practices. For example, to begin with SAPA in different sector. Earlier we talked about intergenerational inclusion, and yes, in SAPA they're doing reverse mentoring to reduce hierarchical barriers and improve collaboration and digital transformation projects. What means? It means that maybe a young employee teaches a senior manager how to use maybe AI or maybe Slack or Teams or social media or whatever, and senior shares their experiences about business, about human relation. It's mentoring is very important in this company. Also in Spain, in the company Orbea, about in the sector of sport equipment, we talk about flexible paternity leave and part-time work arrangement for childcare. The goal is fundamentally to support all parents equally. For example, father takes 2 extra weeks off after the birth, or it's about after maternity leave, we can make a parent works 4 days a week. Yes, and for SNA in Europe, also in Spain, in about metal industry. We talk about inclusive language. We talk about awareness campaigns, promoting inclusive language and addressing inappropriate expression. So the action is about to publish poster or send emails to employees reminding to use gender-neutral terms. It's about communicate about a guide with good expression. It's about training session also. So yes, it's very rich. And in Germany, I saw 2 good practices. In BASF SE, it's about in chemical industry. Also, we talk about work-life balance. It's about is the same as earlier, but I saw that it's important to talk about the right to disconnecting also. And in RWP, we are more about cultural diversity and multilingualism. Yes, I got it. It's about encourages value diversity with international workforce, and the goal is to value each employee's cultural, offering language courses, translating documents in multiple languages, celebrating cultural events of each employees. And to finish, a little focus on France. I picked 3 groups. I would like to start with 40 group because I think it's important that in 40 group it's also about mentoring and access to education. They talk about support students from disadvantaged areas through a dedicated foundation combining financial aid and structural mentoring. And concretely, it's about providing scholarship to students, pairing each student with a mentor, or helping them with how to make a CV. So it's very interesting. And also, I would like to finish with Terial, who is a company who worked in a ceramic sector. They're making clear and transparent promotion criteria, ensuring equitable access to career opportunities. So it's very important to talk about how we can publish internal recruitment. How can we publish? How can I go? How can I publish? How can I? It's about the goal is that their employees needs to know how they can comment on dit postuler apply, thank you, I don't know, apply to an offer, and they need to know the skills, the competence, and everything. And this is about how can we make all of this HR policy transparent. Whew, thank you. Okay. And to conclude, I saw that there are 3 topics. They're about circular economy and resource management. Wait, yes. Yes, yeah. I saw that. I noticed in my experience. I noticed on the good practices and in my experience that the quality of inclusive practices does not necessarily depend on the size of the company, but it really depends on the leadership and values. And I think it will be my last word. So thank you.